Do you sometimes feel as if you're hanging on by your last finger, dangling in free air? Many alliance managers see themselves in the 5 problems on this slide. You don't have the time, money, people, or skills to do all you need to do because management doesn't get it. And management doesn't get it because you don't have a seat at the table. And you don't have a seat at the table because management doesn't get it. And so you're spending all of your time on individual partnerships, which means that despite working harder than ever, you're still not getting the outcomes you know are possible. My rule is, when trying harder cannot and never will deliver a step change in outcomes, I'm looking through the wrong lens. I'm not seeing fundamentally better ways of delivering results. Paraphrasing Winston Churchill, first we shape our structures, thereafter they shape us. We need a new lens to see clearly the structures that we're embedded in so that we can reshape them. Until we see clearly the strategies and structures we're actually using and are embedded in, and which are obviously perfect for the results we're getting, no amount of trying harder will ever deliver anything significantly different. In other words, if your road is designed for hiking, but the results you need are to safely cover 100 miles in the next hour, maybe what you need is a German autobahn and a Porsche, a structure and a vehicle designed for safe high speeds. And notice in here the clover-leaf structure. If you think back, first there were only unmarked intersections, but as speeds and vehicle numbers grew, so did the number of accidents. Trying harder to drive safely only helped a little. Eventually, someone invented the clover-leaf structure, which completely removed the possibility of 2 cars moving perpendicular to each other, ever attempting to occupy the same 5 square meters of road. When trying harder, when spending more money, or when hiring more people doesn't help or isn't possible, you must consider radically different strategies and structures. Consider what in alliance strategy and alliance structures actually makes it impossible to get the radically better results you need. There is a huge difference between 10,000 trees growing in a nursery, each tree in its own pot, and where the staff must give constant attention to every single plant, and a mature forest, a complete ecosystem that totally cares for itself without needing constant attention, and that does, all by itself, a far better job of everything than any human could ever do in a nursery. Do you dream of both having an easier life and delivering 10 times better outcomes? Consider transforming your alliance nursery into a minimum viable ecosystem. Let's look through the lens of nature, and let's learn from nature about the functionality required in a minimum viable ecosystem. And if you remember nothing other than this slide, you will have remembered 90% of the value of this talk. In a mature ecosystem, you will find multiple strata of plants, from the barely visible to the huge sequoia. You will find multiple strata of animals, from the barely visible to huge elephants. You will find plants and animals at all levels, from the worms underground to the birds above the canopy. You'll find fish in the water. You'll find fungi, viruses, and bacteria everywhere. You'll find everything from single cells through multi-cellular organisms to multi-organism organisms like bees, where the swarm is actually the primary evolutionary unit. Natural ecosystems have flourished for 4 billion years despite 5 extinction events and without constant support from alliance managers like you, because all of the requisite structures, processes, relationships, and transformations are present in a minimum viable ecosystem. All of the resource flows and pools, like rivers, ponds, and groundwater stores, enable all to grasp opportunities and enable all to survive collective threats. And most importantly, this is possible because each ecosystem member has the agency they need to respond immediately to opportunities and threats, either alone or in groups. Now let's look at how you can see things through new lenses. The biggest barrier to success today is the lens of neoclassical economics, which sees competition and collaboration as a one-dimensional line of compromise between two opposites, and then tells us that a competitive market can solve all problems by itself. A natural ecosystem, though, sees competition and collaboration as two distinct dimensions, and a natural ecosystem operates with high collaboration and high competition simultaneously. Think of the honey-guide birds that guide humans to beehives, and the humans that then leave honey for the birds. Both then produce fertilizer for the plants to grow and flower, which enables the bees to produce more honey. So actually the bees, honey guides, and humans are both collaborating and competing. Consider what becomes possible for you in your business context if you use a lens that sees competition and collaboration as two distinct complementary axes. And what becomes possible if you can have strategies and structures that enable you to be high in both. As you go into dialogue now, and when you return, some of these questions can support you to find the insights you need. What's your equivalent in your current alliance work to living alone or being a single plant in a pot? What is then analogous to being the same person in a family in a village, or the same plant in a forest? It's time to move from working in alliances to working on the ecosystems, because as nature has proven for 4 billion years, as Nvidia has demonstrated over the past decade, and as you can too, ecosystems outperform even alliances, let alone single product companies, in volatile, complex, and rapidly changing times. And boy, are we in volatile, complex, and rapidly changing times now. If you want more, follow us on YouTube and LinkedIn, or contact us via our website. I wish you a very productive and energizing time together, exploring your individual business context and what ecosystem strategy and structures can do for you that will outperform what you're doing at the moment and give you an easier life.